All right. Well, we are live. We're going to give it a few moments to make sure that it gets out to all the places on social media, Facebook, and on YouTube. If you're coming aboard this week for our Friday live session, you may have noticed we have Cody again. So it must be another Ask a Tech question day, something like that. So Cody being our resident tech, we're going to ask him questions. That's PJ. If you haven't seen her in a while, that's PJ. This is not Lindsay. She's gone for today.
Wow.
Look how
Look at that.
rhymey.
He just got all of that in there. That was smooth.
Well, as some poets do. If it doesn't rhyme, you just force it, right?
That's right.
That's,
Just
you can
force
make an entire rap career out of that.
That's true.
Ask Slim Shady.
Oh dear.
Okay, everybody. Again, this is the RV Small Talk Podcast Friday Live. We typically jump on at noon 30, 12:30. Hey, sometimes unloading 11. Welcome to the Friday Live, and we're going to ask tech-related questions. So if you have questions,
I mean,
for
they
your
could ask
RV.
any questions, right?
well, I kind of build it as technician questions, but sure.
We
off the
may not
cuff,
answer them.
yeah, we may not answer them. So get your questions ready, put them in the comments wherever you're watching, and let us know what's on your mind. My first question out of the chute, and I just streamed this up because someone has to have a first question.
Oof.
What is the bigger issue when it comes to long hauling? And let's just set the scenario: flat terrain, little to no wind. What's the bigger issue? The weight of what you're pulling, or the air resistance of what you're pulling when it comes to wear and tear on your tow vehicle or just gas mileage? I have a guess. I have a guess.
What is your guess?
My guess is once it's rolling, if there's not much change in terrain or in wind issues, then once it's rolling, you have a bit of inertia going.
Mhm.
So my problem would be aerodynamics at that point.
Aerodynamics, wind resistance, sure.
It would be more of the issue for tow vehicle and for maintenance and efficiency.
Correct.
But getting up to that driving,
Yeah, getting up to
level.
your highway speeds.
I mean, the weight's going to be the problem.
Yeah, absolutely, because you have to overcome the inertia of not moving. However, if we're talking highway long haul, not urban driving, if we're crossing the middle states, the flyover territory, where you can just go.
Where my Hummer might be able to tow something?
I don't think your Hummer can tow anything anyway.
You might be right.
I'm not sure it can cross over pebbles, much less rocks right now.
Ooh.
So, is what can be done to alleviate aerodynamic issues when you're towing?
Well,
There's the real question.
the real question. They make a add-on spoiler wing thing. I forget the name of them. That can actually be mounted on top of the tow vehicle.
Okay.
Kind of
But
see
you
them on
know-
like 18.
Is it real
Just
pretty?
to help. No,
Yeah.
it's not real pretty.
Is that why people don't do it?
Probably, or they don't know about them. But it's to help bring that wind up and over your trailer, so you're not running into that air wall.
Okay. All right. So if you're facing gas mileage problems and it's not because you're going up and downhill or you're not in stop and go situations, it's probably aerodynamic issues. You might want to research ways to deal with aerodynamics. Okay. You were going to say something.
Yeah, you were.
It was right there.
It was right there. It's gone now.
Okay,
The
here's
Ferris wheel went round.
our next thing from Facebook user, probably in our RV Small Talk Facebook group. So welcome, maybe the Tiny Trailer Rally. How often should I change out the heating element in a standard gas electric water heater?
Good question. There's actually not necessarily a service interval for your electric heating element. I'm going to base it on operation and as well as how well you maintain your water heater. If you do your maintenance for the inside of the water heater, that's going to help keep your heating element clean, which should extend the life of it and also the efficiency of the water heater as well.
Okay.
So
So-
it could last the entire life of your trailer if you maintain it and take care of it and don't dry fire your water heater.
That was the next thing. What might cause a premature degradation of that element?
Usually, the most common cause for knee replacement is dry firing a water heater, which means there's no water in the tank. you've turned the heating element on, and now it has
Burnt
burned
itself
itself out, basically.
But a
Yeah.
lot of taking care of the heating element and how quickly it corrodes will have to do with if you have an anode rod and how that, if you
Sure, yeah.
have an anode rod and getting that changed
Correct.
so that the heating element isn't getting corroded.
But
Right,
so
so if
many
you-
of what you see don't like have anode rods. What do you do?
Correct. So if you're, and this is the way these things are designed. So if you have a Dometic or Atwood water heater, they are designed to be operated without an anode rod. Per the manufacturer, do not put an anode rod in their product.
It looks like you could.
You could. They make there's some aftermarket ones that are made that are relatively short because their drain plugs are actually set at an angle, so you can't go straight in like you do with an anode rod on a Suburban brand. So people do put them in. Getting them back out could become a real problem. You have differing metals on those, which is usually an issue. And Dometic also says that their plastic, for better terms, drain plug is a safety device as well. So if their pop-off valve fails
Then the pressure
or something
can
like that, then
push-
essentially that plug is your last
I see.
safety device to blow out to save like a tank rupture or something like that.
Well, have you seen more heating element issues on the Dometic since they don't have anode rods?
I can't say that I have, no.
Okay.
But anode rod maintenance is super important because it leads to more buildup inside your tank if you're
Right.
not taking care of it.
So, would a water filtration system going into your RV also protect your water heater? I mean, if you don't have an
Absolutely.
anode rod, it would seem that the more minerals you can pull out of the water ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, putting a pre-filter on before it goes into the trailer is a great way to extend the life of all of your plumbing system.
Yeah, that mineral buildup goes everywhere.
Yep.
In your faucets and your lines.
And that includes when you fill your freshwater tank. If you can run a filter there to fill your freshwater tank, if you're going to be dry camping or something, it's a great idea to filter it going into there as well.
Okay, cool. Next question. Yes, we have a question. A 7-pin plug that goes from the trailer to truck to hook up on our dashboard. It says trailer disconnected. So what can we do?
Okay, that's a good one,
Oh.
and it is
comes
actually
up.
becoming a more common issue.
Right.
Couple of things. Some of that could be that there could be an issue with the tow vehicle. There could be a programming issue. It could be a faulty component in the tow vehicle. Usually not the case. Usually if you're getting that, the tow vehicle is detecting some kind of issue in the electric brake system on the trailer. Not always, but generally that's kind of where we'd be looking. Could
Is
have
it
a
looking
poor
for like
ground,
resistance, a load or something like that?
basically, yeah. So all the new trucks kind of send like a pulse down the brake line
When you first connect it, just
all
to see
the
if it's
time.
there?
All the time. They're
Okay,
always
okay.
sending that pulse to see when that trailer is there and when it's not.
Okay.
So it's always looking. So if there is any issue in that system on the trailer, it may eventually send it back, and it may not do it all the time. It might do it, in the morning and not do it in the afternoon or something. It could be a loose connection. It could be a resistance issue or something like that. So it takes a little of an investigation. We have come across this. We've found it from broken connections actually in the 7-way head, back to wiring connections at the brakes themselves, magnets grounded out, or the wires actually shorted inside the hub that come and go, give you that come and go because the wire's not always shorted. So it is at times and not at others. So just varying issues that could cause that. So it would require some investigation.
So is it, if you plug into your truck and it says trailer disconnected, is it dangerous to drive?
It is a good possibility that your brakes won't operate. They
Okay.
may not. I can't necessarily say that things are going to fail when you go to hit those brakes. But generally, if it says trailer disconnected, you're not going to have much going on there.
So if you had lights,
Even if you can see lights.
Yeah, the lights may work, but it's the way it determines a trailer is plugged in is based off of the brake circuit.
Because that's the component that's
so the brake
safety.
circuit is causing that
Correct.
trailer disconnect. to come up on their dash. So they may not have brakes, but if they need to get it looked at, they could carefully and slowly drive that trailer to someplace to look at it.
Correct.
It's possible.
Could they? I know here, we've had someone step on the gas pedal and we put our ear next to it, we might hear that hum or that whine or something. They could maybe check and see if it's at least registering, or maybe they just drive a few feet at slow speed and use the manual to see if it locks up the brakes.
Absolutely, yeah.
In which case, it might just be look at the truck programming because the brakes are actually working.
You could still get some operation, but it could still be a trailer issue.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Still get checked out.
there's a lot of things going on there, so.
All right. Are flexible solar panels mounted on roofs more likely to be damaged to where they won't work by hail than the rigid suitcase type? Is this Amy? Are you Amy?
It's a good question.
It is a good question.
That's a good question. I don't know how flexible panels are actually tested and rated to withstand hail damage. I know usually like hard mounted panels are tested to
yes, it is Amy.
Pretty high velocity. They're tested to pretty high velocity. They'll tell you, they take them, they jump on them, they stand on them, they throw things at them, they shoot basically hailstones at them to get them to break. I can't recall that I've actually ever read any information on the durability of a flexible panel. So I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know about the hail damage part of it per se, but I can tell you in general, flexible panels have a much higher failure rate.
They do. That's true.
Than the solid panels, whether they're a suitcase or whether they're a rigid mount on the roof.
What's up, Isaiah?
Isaiah!
Hey, Isaiah's here. So there is that. Whether hail is going to be the main culprit of it or not, they do have a higher failure rate, and they don't have the longevity.
They don't.
That a rigid panel does.
That's correct.
So, and there are I am learning, different levels of quality in hard panels as well.
Absolutely.
So when you pay more, they've got a different type of construction that makes them not only more durable, but usually more efficient. So
this is a category where you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
I fully believe
very
in that.
much so.
Yes.
Solar
and people
panels.
try to make them cheaper because you're like, hey, I get 190 watts and this is cheaper.
Right.
But it's not the same quality. Does that mean that it's gonna not last through the life of your trailer? No, but you do kind of get some differences there.
All right, let me get Isaiah's, and then we're going to jump back up to this other question. Hey, y'all, howdy from Nashville, because you moved, man.
Yeah, moved out of Texas.
Hope all is well. Okay,
Nashville is a great place to be, though.
Yeah, super fun. Let's go to this one. What is the best way of bringing a slide back in if it breaks and there isn't a manual override like a crank?
So if we're talking about that type of slide system, we're talking about a Schwintek, which everybody loves. Especially if you have problems. The Schwintek system operates when it operates. If it doesn't, it can be a bear. To get it back in, there's a couple things you can try. If you find the controller mounted in the trailer or in your unit, there is an override process to it. It tells you exactly how to do it on the face of the controller. You can try that to get your slide back in. If that fails to operate, the next best method on a Schwintek is to actually access the motors at the top of the columns, and you have to actually pop those loose, and then you can push the slide in.
How hard is that?
Just manually muscle it in?
After the motors are popped up, you have to muscle it in.
How heavy is that?
It's some work.
So you need to make friends with everyone camping around
your campground if you're having that type
Bring
of
them over to push your slide.
So what I'm hearing is, if you want to do that method, all you have to do is buy the beer.
Well, that's a good,
I think that is an excellent idea.
Provide the barbecue and the beer and get it done, you bet.
And then obviously it's in. Is there anything you have to do to secure it to get it to a repair facility? Like it's in, but what if you're going to take some pretty crazy turns at high speed with a broken trailer?
You're probably driving a little too fast then anyway.
Okay, but is there anything that should be done?
I mean, yeah, you should secure the slide from the inside. Anytime your motors are kind of your brakes on that system, they're what holds everything still, so things don't move. So yeah, you would want to find a way to secure it from the inside, basically from the wall to the back of the slide fascia, as far or as close into that slide wall as you can. They make like a, I don't know if you think about like your old
Curtain
Shower
rod sort of thing.
rods.
shower rod or a curtain rod or something like
Some
that
sort
that
of
you
a
can
jack
extend.
that can stand.
And they actually make them for the RV industry. They're like travels, slide support bars, things like that, that they're actually made for that, that you could put in there as well. But yeah, something
Yeah,
to
but
keep
if
it
your
from
slide
moving.
fails, most people are not going to have
They're
that.
not. Nope. So
Okay.
you'll have
So-
to devise something. Yep.
All right, Cody, I apologize because Taylor, I don't apologize for Taylor being a part of this feed, but I do apologize because Taylor knows a lot about solar and electronics,
Oh.
and he's asking you a question. So here it
Uh-oh,
is.
I'm being challenged. And that's okay.
Do you have any insights on series versus series parallel wiring for solar panels using an MPPT charge controller? When would you want to use series or series parallel over parallel? Cody, you're on.
That's a mouthful. Man, that's a mouthful.
I know, and he did it so well.
He did. So, I'm thinking anything straight parallel is going to be a system under or up to basically 30 amps. So maybe like 3 200-watt panels where I'm going to use a PWM controller because I'm probably not going to use an MPPT. It may not be worth the investment on a system that small. To go up from there, this is really going to be kind of, it's all going to depend upon the size of the system, honestly, for me. If we're doing 5-6 panels, I may run them just in straight series. A lot of the times we do follow manufacturer guidelines depending on the size of the system, how they recommend it's installed. But if we're doing a very large system, probably going to end up going series parallel because we're going to have a string of panels here and a string of panels here that now parallel to come into an MPPT controller. So it's a very, I always call solar and lithium kind of personal conversations because it depends on what you want to achieve.
Taylor.
Yeah. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? What do you want to run in the trailer? How long and all of that. So, and all of that is taken into account whenever a system is designed.
So for you, it has to do with the size of the system, the layout of the system,
And the roof.
and which the design of how you have to lay it out, but then also maybe how you're going to be using it.
Right.
If you're going to need full power, or if it's just for longevity.
Right.
Which one's better if you wanted the most power?
More panels, more power.
Yeah,
I mean, so probably looking at doing a series parallel chain. So you're going to have two different groups of panels with high voltage feeding in for MPPT to convert that over to amperage. So you're going to be able to get a lot of power that way,
okay.
personally.
Taylor, I don't know if that helped you at all, but it's enlightening.
It almost
to me.
feels like maybe that was just a challenge question. If he knows a lot. I mean,
Taylor knows a lot. He has tried so many things, and and they are hopefully finally breaking into spring. Let's see what else. We just saw some more things. Could a second battery be installed if requested?
A second battery, what kind of battery on what? You can almost always put in
you
a
can
second
almost
battery.
always put in it right. You can almost always put in a second battery. It just depends on trailer size and space. So
right.
batteries are not huge, but they're not small. So you may or may not have anywhere to put it.
All right, there are Taylor. There are theories that series parallel will function better in low light. Is that true? Oh, Taylor.
I
Not
don't
at all.
know.
What does that
No,
mean?
I think it's to our conversation
Oh.
of if it was helpful or wasted. So, anyways, yeah. So bringing up his actual question. Ooh,
Man, we're getting touchy
Don't
here.
know.
I don't know.
You're gonna-
I don't know.
I haven't.
we're gonna have to go back to the books.
I haven't read on low light situations, so I would probably tend to sway that way just because an MPPT is more efficient than a PWM controller,
Ah.
which is typically when we go to that system, we start looking at going to series or series parallel because they can do a better conversion of the high voltage to amperage, which so if you get shading or you get a low light situation, it can still convert as much of that voltage over versus just having kind of amperage.
So maybe there's something to just the setup, but there's definitely something to speak to when it comes to what's after the setup, the MPPT.
Right.
Just
For
being
sure.
a better.
For sure.
Okay. Long story short, we have too much shade. I believe you because you're up in Oregon where they have really cool trees.
That's the good part.
All right. On lithium, I see that when most people switch, they put 2 batteries. Is that a personal preference for longer runtime, or is there another reason for 2?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Longer runtime, more batteries, more runtime.
Tim Taylor it. More.
That's right, more
Oh.
power.
Well, and I think when people do move to lithium, the original idea is that moving to lithium will allow them to not only have no maintenance, but to charge faster and to be able to be off the grid for a longer period of time with
Right.
the solar panel.
Right.
That being said, if that's your goal, the solar can only do so much. So if you have a couple of rainy days or overcast and you don't have any sun, you're going to need more stored energy in those
I like
batteries.
it. I like it because it's literally a battery bank. And what do you do with the bank? Well, if you're smart, you have a rainy day fund. Having more capacity is your rainy day fund. If you don't have solar for some days, you have rainy days.
Right. So that is really the reason that most people upgrade to 2 that does give you a little reserve for going off the grid.
Good question.
Yeah, yeah. I'm out of questions that have been sent in, so do keep on thinking some up. Type them in to us. Give us some more questions. PJ, do you have anything?
You know, we just came from 2 rallies, the Texas Truck Camper Rally and the Texas Tiny Trailer Rally, and we had 1,000 questions. You know, what can you remember from that? We were all there.
But I was only at the first one.
Well,
I was
so
only
is
at the
he.
first one too, and I did a solar class. I answered solar.
Yeah, it's really fun because at the rallies we do classes and
Can I
really we
can I ask like
adjust all
low
of
hanging
that.
fruit, and it's all opinion. This is going to invite opinions.
Oh, you're just looking to get
okay?
beat up.
Absolutely. Because we had a trailer out there that I had to move with my truck, and it wasn't my trailer, it wasn't our trailer. It's a trailer that I had to move with my truck, and I flipped the ball and I used it, and then the next time I touched the ball to flip it back over, my hand is covered in gunks of grease.
Grease.
And so it's the to grease or not to grease question. And I know that this is opinions. I know it's inviting a fight, but I hate getting my hands all blackened when I'm not expecting grease all over my hands and then my pants and shirt.
That's why you're supposed to get one of those cute little like animals that you put on it to cover it.
Okay. All right. So let's back this up.
Fight.
Yeah, let's go with the original thing. Why do you put grease on your trailer hitch?
Friction, heat, to reduce to
friction and heat
to-
when you're
to
traveling?
yes, to extend the life of
The
your
actual
equipment.
coupler. To keep the wear down on the coupler?
Generally, the coupler and not the tow ball. It's to help extend the life of the coupler, especially if you're running a weight distribution hitch.
Okay.
Okay. How many couplers did we replace this year?
I've never replaced a coupler due to being worn out.
Okay, I just want to put that out there.
I hear
okay?
you. I'm just telling you
Okay.
what is said.
And there are many people who are told to grease the ball because it helps with loading and unloading.
There's that too.
Does it?
I mean, maybe some.
I think if you're set up correctly and you've got a good quality ball that you're towing on, you shouldn't have really any latching issues anyway.
And so this is exactly what I've been thinking too. And then I'm also thinking, okay, so maybe it's the rust argument. No one likes that. So instead of dealing with a rusty tow ball, you get a greasy one. You know? Yay. Anyways, I'm not a fan. I've never personally used grease on a tow ball, but I've ended up with messes because I've hitched up to other people's trailers, and it frustrates me.
I won't use it.
That's validated. It's
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it
It
either.
is.
We move them all the time with our forklifts here on the lot. You know, I go to switch the ball over on the forklift or something. I get the
Yeah.
same result. I get covered in grease because whatever customer dropped off does grease, and it's all up inside the coupler. So
So here we go.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was a time when everything was steel, everything rusted, and nothing was painted. And trailers, you know, farm trailers especially, things that are working trailers, you know, they might rust and have operational issues and be a little easier to load and maneuver. But
And you see more variation of types of hitches there too, couplers.
yeah,
In farm and
but
industrial.
I think it's maybe a fifth wheel overflow into tow.
What's
costs.
another thing
We
that
have
you've
a-
got to clean up as well?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you don't, it's going to collect all that road grime,
Mm-hmm.
which will actually
Actually cause more wear.
cause more wear.
Mhm.
So you've got to keep up with that part of it as well if you do choose to use grease.
Lee Hughes, he's online. He says, I've been using graphite for the trailer hitch. It seems to reduce noise effectively. Any thoughts on this? I mean, it's a dry
Graphite
lube.
will work too. I mean, why wouldn't it?
I think
It's
it's fine.
less messy on your hands. I
Ish.
don't know exactly what you mean, Lee, about to reduce noise effectively. Were you getting noise when you turned the corner?
Well, I mean, this is the same thing Taylor brings up. I started greasing mine because I got tired of the ball coupler squeaking. So it's
When you're
Yeah.
driving?
I'm guessing whenever there's changes in terrain and turns is my guess.
Okay.
So
well,
it's the turning and the fishtailing, porpoising.
Does yours squeak?
I don't know, but I oftentimes have kids in the backseat. And they do.
The kids are squeaking, so you can't hear.
Yeah,
What
the
about
squeaking.
yours? I mean, you tow with a weight distribution.
No, I mean occasionally I hear it groan or pop, but it is not a constant squeak.
Yeah.
And I am the guy, if the dash has a constant squeak or, you know, something is loaded in the back seat and it's rubbing while we're driving,
You have a pretty critical ear. That bothers you.
I pull over and I fix it. So it has never, I traded in my car. 'cause
My
it started
solution
to squeak on
is
the dash.
find those frequencies and then listen to those really loud until you lose those frequencies and you'll never worry about it again. Ask my stepdad.
Turn up the
He
radio.
can't hear a thing.
Turn up
Yeah.
the radio. No, I don't know. I guess that's a reason to do something.
Sure.
Is to not make it make noise. It's just not anything I've had to struggle with.
So this is,
Interesting.
I know this is a point of contention, but the fact is it doesn't matter if it's your trailer, your truck, do what you're going to do because it's your trip, it's your travel, your peace of mind and your comfort. So absolutely, if it brings you any of that, then by all means find some kind of lubricant, put it on that tow ball and quiet your ride. Maybe get less wear on your coupler as long as you keep on changing it out.
And on that corner, there are things. A lot of times, I know things do move a bit because it isn't the ball necessarily, but it's banging because the drawbar is loose.
Right.
And they do make some things to tighten up the drawbar
Yep.
and tighten up the connection.
I have
so the
used those
connection,
and I've loved them, but since I flipped my system over so often nowadays, I stopped using it. And
Yeah.
I just deal with the little bit of clanking whenever you start from a stop or when
Yes.
you're slowing down. That's when you typically hear it or
It-
going over bumps.
right? But I don't know that that's squeaking. That's
No,
kind
that's
of
more clunk.
clunking.
Definitely clunky.
So they do make things to fix that, but I just have never had a squeaking problem that I know of. And I've towed gazillion trailers, but
At this
I
point,
just-
yeah.
maybe my ears are bad. I don't know.
So,
I do turn up the radio
Could be.
when I drive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that could be it.
all right, Ali. Hi, guys. Can't stay long, but just wanted to thank you. We get so much useful info from you. We have a 2021 Tab 320 and love it.
Oh,
Awesome.
yay.
It's an easy setup to love, isn't it? It's
Boy, those
really a cool
320s.
trailer.
Yeah.
You know, they've tried making them a little smaller. They've tried making them a little bigger. That 320 really is the sweet spot. Good.
I also use that device to keep the hitch from moving back and forth. Love it. I do too. I just,
Yeah.
because of my current towing setup, I use it less, but it's still in my console. It does work.
Yep, that does work. Definitely.
You've had experience maybe with that hitch, the tow ball situation that has like the pneumatic compression.
I don't have any personal experience.
Have you
with
seen it?
But I have seen them.
What's the
yeah,
name of
they,
that?
They use an airbag on it to help dampen the ride. right? The
What are your thoughts on
all
that?
of that to
equipment?
the tow vehicle. I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's a very, very big piece of equipment
Probably
to tow
expensive.
a trailer. Probably expensive, and probably, in my opinion, not going to be for most people on the road.
And it probably doesn't work with weight distribution systems and all that.
Yeah,
It'd be-
they're. I don't see how it could.
Okay.
But there's so many different weight distributions now.
There
Yes.
are.
You know, yeah. So, you know, I know that Lance has the Anderson hitch on their website, I think.
Do they still?
Oh, I don't know. They did at one time. And I know a lot of people come in and they just know they talked about that in the forums.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you think about the Anderson hitch?
I have tried to understand how the Anderson hitch works. I get how it works for weight distribution.
Mhm.
I've not honestly figured out the sway part of it. I just don't. I can't grasp it. I can't get it into my brain how it works for anti-sway.
Is it hard to set up?
It's not super difficult to set up. No.
Okay, so if I put on an Anderson hitch, then loading and unloading isn't going to be extraordinarily difficult.
No.
What
No,
are
I
some of
don't
the other
think.
ones we've done?
Probably I would say one of the biggest, most difficult ones out there would be the Pro Pride
Mm-hmm.
hitch, which is that crazy big, like $5,000 weight distribution hitch that stays mounted to the trailer. That thing takes some time to set up. It's like a weekend project.
Every time or just the first
Just the
time?
initial setup, but then actually getting it set up, you have to like back your tow vehicle with the receiver already into the tow vehicle into a 2-inch like square box. So you're trying to like stab a hole instead of just backing under it and cranking down onto it. So it's a little more difficult, in my opinion, to get loaded onto something like that. Now I hear they work amazing, but my gosh, they are big and they're heavy and they're expensive. But the
Hey, MDP.
I think Kurt makes a couple of great hitches. Recurve makes some good hitches. I mean, Draw Tight. Equalizer is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many brands.
Right.
It really depends on what do you like, what do you want, what do you research.
And those brands are all kind of the standard ones
They
that
are.
that we're used to. That's right.
The one thing I would recommend on a weight distribution if you buy a trailer anywhere is make sure it's rated correctly for your trailer. Don't let the dealership just throw any hitch on there. I have heard stories that some dealers install a 1,000-pound hitch on every trailer they sell. That's not appropriate. That will cause damage and operational problems. So just make sure that you are weighted correctly.
Okay. This is a kind of tough one. Can incinerator toilets be installed on RVs? If so, why aren't they used more often?
Well, I don't know if they can be
Ooh.
installed. I would say they're probably not used because they're
Price
my
point.
guess would be price point, but I don't know that to be fact. I've never looked into an incinerator toilet.
I know that we've seen.
Sounds like a fire hazard.
We've seen macerator toilets,
I don't know what an incinerator.
We've seen
toilet is.
composting toilets, and
Right.
we've done composting
but
installs.
those are not very common because of the cost.
right. A composting toilet is very expensive.
And if it's going to be in a system that you're going to be taking off grid for any amount of time, because we haven't dealt with incinerator toilets, my questions come into what's it take to actually do the work of incineration? Is it propane? Is it electrical? I mean, is it consuming power? I just don't know. This is a neat question. It is not seen.
I bet somebody out there has done it.
I bet so too. I just haven't seen it
Yeah.
in any of the manufacturers that I've run
No.
across ever.
Most of the
I think it'd
manufacturers
be-
are going to stick pretty much with it,
Yeah.
with the standard toilet
Yeah.
and tank method for now.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I know how that it burns sewage into ashes. I've just never seen.
They have electric and gas.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't ever seen a manufacturer that's readily available to the public at a dealership have them as an option.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's a
don't know.
really good question.
Yeah.
I have never seen them in an RV. You know, it also could be that it would require different regulations.
I mean,
Yeah, so it just poses a really big question. It's not used probably because, are you going to get an RVIA certification? if you have
Don't
an
know.
incinerator.
And maybe
toilet.
and maybe it's not as big a deal
I
as
don't know.
we're wondering. It just because the RV industry
know.
isn't necessarily quick to come around to ideas sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all it is.
Well, I tell you what, I will research that. Actually, I'll have someone research that, and so that we can talk more about toilet options next time.
Yeah. I know it's pricey, but considering how expensive trailers are, it doesn't seem that bad. I mean,
Yeah, good point.
you never know what that straw is when it comes to your average consumer if you just cross that line. But I do get the thinking as to why it would be beneficial. Considering the type of camping I want to do more of, that makes perfect sense.
Right.
I know people with camper vans that have composting, but they had to special order because of price.
Yep.
Composting toilets are definitely an expensive thing. You are welcome, and thank you for a good question that we don't know much about because it gets our brains going. It is actually a good thing to wonder. Okay, we're coming up at the end of our time, unless you have a last minute question. All right, here we go. Lee says, after Bandera, I have some minor hell dents on the roof of my Tiger Moth. Yeah. Is it worth worrying about repairing? No leaking? I guess the only effect would relate to resale value in the future.
I will tell you. I will tell you the only way to repair that pretty much is like replacing your roof.
The panels.
The whole thing.
Yeah, it is a composite
Assembly.
panel.
Yep.
Is it worth it? Well, not to me. It's not.
Right.
Dents happen. I remember talking about this with Garrett Finney, who designed them, and he said, "Look, it's a piece of gear. It's meant to go out there and go camping. Things happen.
Stories.
Don't worry about it.
You
If
can
it doesn't
point to it and
leak
find a
and
story
it
to tell.
operates, it's good." So I know that's his point of view. Doesn't have to be yours. Can be repaired, but probably the repair is going to be replacing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not necessarily worth it. But if you have insurance that would cover that kind of hail damage, you should definitely talk with them about it
Yep.
and maybe get an estimate and repair it or don't.
Right. As
At that
per Amy saying she filed insurance on her Tab 320, but is not repairing.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can a black tank be installed on smaller trailers instead of cassette toilets?
Usually they have a cassette toilet because there's really no space for a black tank.
You might have to keep in mind your weight carrying capacity at that point because the trailer wasn't
Right.
designed. The axle
Right.
isn't maybe up to the potential load.
Right. And I have seen some people try to rig something that they do a really thin black tank. They mount something under there and make it work, but really thin black tanks don't work very well, and it's just a constant issue. Make friends with your cassette toilet, or probably move to a different model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cassette toilets are really very simple to use.
They are.
Yeah. Hey, Cecily. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you.
Good to see
Welcome
you.
aboard the live stream. So, yeah. Anything else? I'm gonna have to let Cody go to work. And
Well, there's one that
do
says,
some
but
things.
may have to replace a solar
That's
panel.
Amy.
That's Amy.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's Amy.
Okay.
Her solar panel got damaged at the Tiny Trailer Rally. Yep.
We had a big old hailstorm.
We did. My
It
my
was
vehicle
nasty.
took some dents.
I need to file. I need to have my truck looked at.
Yeah, mine too.
So,
All right. Well, it was great to get these questions. This was pretty
yeah,
fun.
this was good. Yeah.
thank you everybody for joining in, for just having angles and questions and all that we don't necessarily consider all the time. Prepare for the next time. It'll be about a month, and we'll have Cody back on again. Until next time, we have a recent episode of the RV Small Talk podcast out, especially if you're interested in truck campers. It's with the fine folks from Truck Camper Magazine. And we'll see you again soon. Bye,
Friday.
everybody.
Friday, I bet.
I have to find the button. Keep doing that. Be awkward.
Clint, are you done yet?
I haven't pushed the button yet.
He's
because
not
you look
stopping.
ridiculous.